baseball romantics. This is Jason coming to you with my usual cohorts, Bruce and Nico. And we are on episode 3 of our podcast, our weekly regular podcast, where we are going to break down the American and National Leagues. Bruce is covering the National League for us on a regular basis now, and Nico is going to handle the junior circuit, as it used to be called, the American League. And yeah, that's going to be our weekly format going forward. So we're going to try to get an episode out every week where we recap the previous week's action. And then we'll have some bonus episodes in between as we go through the season. But we want you guys to give the first 2 episodes a listen and get caught up. And then we'll have this new one for you as well. So I am going to pass it along to my guy, Nico, who is clad in his A's hat today. So looking good there, Nico. And let's talk about some American League action this week, Nico. What you got on your mind?
Good to be with you, Jason and Bruce. Yeah, so let's take a second and just think, guys. It's already April 13th, and we already have a few weeks of baseball data. Feels just like a couple of days ago we were live, giving our predictions, and now we've got 2.5 weeks to dive in and react and overreact, but just react to this season so far. But yeah, I wanted to piggyback just for a moment on Vladdy Jr.'s contract. It is a $325 million signing bonus, and it is going to be spread out over 15 years. So it's a nice little bag for Vladdy. That kind of structure right there tells you that, Toronto's all in on building on him. And Guerrero cemented himself in the generational wealth territory, like my friend Bruce said on our last episode. So again, congrats to Vladdy and the Blue Jays, and they're having a nice little start to the season this year. But yeah, so jumping into the AL, I just wanted to take a second. The AL East is kind of stuck in a mud pit. They're all sort of within 2 games of each other. So again, kind of what we expected with the AL East, with the injuries that the Yankees had coming into the season. You sort of felt that this was kind of a division that was up in the air. Every team was going to kind of come in with some optimism. Yeah, as of right now, you're starting to see some of those flaws in the Yankees. The starting pitching is leaving a lot to be desired without Garrett Cole and Heel. You're seeing the Yankees' vulnerabilities a little bit so far this season. Looking at Stroman last night, couldn't even get out of the first inning. So again, the Yankees are, they're still hanging in there, but the AL East is it's going to be a battle, and it's proven so far in the season. And Baltimore's hanging around.
Can I jump in real quick on that? Just give you some more color around that AL East. I'll just tell you, you said it's kind of a mud pit. It is. So the Blue Jays, Yankees, and Red Sox are all 5-5 in their last 10. The Rays and Orioles are both 3-7. I'm a big believer in run differential, by the way, as you start to kind of try to get these teams separated. But I will tell you, the Yankees are still a plus 18, which is still the best in the East, and they've scored still the second most amount of runs in the major leagues at 95. But every team in the East is either even or positive, except the Orioles, especially after today. But yeah, just to kind of illustrate what you were saying, Nico, that tells you right there, everybody's kind of playing 500 ball or worse. And also, except for the Yankees, the Blue Jays are +3, the Red Sox are exactly even, and the Rays are +3 run differential. So just kind of reinforcing what you were saying there.
Yeah. Yeah, well, that's the torpedo bats, right? All those that +18 run differential.
That's right.
But no, yeah, the Yankees are still hitting, which is typical Yankees. They're getting contributions from Austin Wells and some of those other guys that Bellinger, Goldschmidt's look good. So again, the Yankees are still it's early. They're hanging in there, but you're starting to see some of those vulnerabilities with that rotation. But yeah, the AL West is a dogfight, and look, there's Tampa hanging around, right? You know what I mean? Tampa kind of we didn't know what to expect this year. Kind of a 500 ball club last year, but they're hanging around. So you just get the sense that this could be a division where 90 wins. It could potentially win that division. So it'll be interesting to see how this plays out. But with that being said, my team of the week for this tough one, I'm going to go with the Detroit Tigers. Since they started that 0-3 series with the Dodgers, They've been 9-3. They lost today against the Twins. It was Joe Mauer Day in Minnesota, so good for the Twins to win a game in honoring the legend of Joe Mauer. But yeah, they came into today with a top 3 ERA in the AL, 3.64. You're seeing guys like Spencer Torkelson finally starting to show signs of tapping into that power that we knew or we thought that he had. Kerry Carpenter quietly mashing, and Riley Green is he could be a star in the making. There was some chatter of he could have been an AL MVP candidate last season. But yeah, I think AJ Hinch has these guys playing loose. They're one of the youngest teams in baseball, and we sort of asked ourselves before the season, right? We said, I think it was Jason, we said, are the Tigers of the second half of the season or the last 8 weeks of the season? Or are they going to resemble the Tigers of the first half of the season that was a below 500 team? With that being said, so far in the sample size that we have, they're showing they're very much that Tigers team, that gritty, young, sort of like, playing with, nothing to lose Tigers. So yeah, I think AJ Hinch has he's got that team playing with a little bit of swagger right now. You can feel that second half carryover coming into the season, and it's good to see Detroit playing meaningful baseball in April again. So right now, I got to give my love to Detroit. They're the team of the week for me in the American League. I do want to give an honorable mention to the Angels. I know Bruce and I are we're secretly trying to diagnose the Angels day in and day out. But hey, they finally lost their first series of the year, which, hey, it's not a bad thing. They dropped 2 out of 3 against Houston, but they're still 9-6. They're hanging in there, and the question is how long is it going to last? Can the Angels stay relevant till Memorial Day, or will they sort of teeter before that? But Mike Trout's healthy, he's hitting home runs. The Angels they're fun and they're exciting right now, and if they can get consistent pitching from the staff, they may hang around a little bit longer than we think. So I do want to give them
negative 3 run differential, by the way. But in their defense, every team in that division except the Astros, who +2 is negative right now. So, but yeah, negative 3 run differential. Right. I hope they can sustain it just for the entertainment factor, but we'll see.
It'd be great to see the Angels win.
Yeah,
the consistency isn't quite there yet. They've won big a couple of times. Yep. They've also lost big a few times. So it's a lot of. If I'm an Angels fan right now, I'm drinking a lot because you don't know where they're going. But
not as much as Braves fans, but yeah,
fun to watch. Well, the Braves fans should be setting up a tab for the year. I think.
I don't want to get off on that. Let's get back to Nico.
Yeah,
that's a great choice, though, Nico. Tigers. That's a great. Jackson Joe, by the way, he was spinning it yesterday, so yeah, that's a great sign for them.
Yeah, I like I said, I've got the Tigers in my preseason winning the Central, so I'm pretty confident. Hey, a couple weeks into the season, but we're just reacting as we go, like Jason said. So yeah, I want to give the Angels a shout out. They're 9-6. They deserve a little bit of love, and like Bruce said, hey, let's just enjoy the ride with the Angels because it's probably going to end up derailing before Memorial Day, but yeah. So going into the player of the week, I'm going to go with a popular guy that we should be talking about more in the game of baseball. He's not getting maybe as much attention because of the Shoheis and the Aaron Judges and the Mookie Betts. It's Bobby Witt Jr. Bobby Witt came into Sunday 9 for his last 22, 4 doubles, 2 RBIs, 2 steals, and 5 walks. He's starting to separate himself, not as just the face of the Royals, but I think pretty soon, within the next couple of years, he may be the face of baseball with some of these guys over 30. So he's electric on both sides of the diamond, offensively, defensively. He's only 24 years old. So you're going to be hearing a lot of Bobby Witt Jr. from the Romantic About Baseball podcast team. And he's my player of the week. I do want to give an honorable mention to Rafi Devers. He started the season off horribly, right? We talked about it. I think he was like maybe 1 for his first 19 with like 15 strikeouts, something egregious like that. But he's back. He had a great series against Toronto, but unfortunately he slipped a little bit against the White Sox here, which you'd be surprised with that staff there. He actually didn't get a hit in Chicago. He went 0 for his 10. But I do want to give an honorable mention to Rafi Devers. He's made a nice little comeback onto the season. So yeah, team of the week for me, Detroit Tigers, and player of the week, Bobby Witt Jr. And I'll try not to give Witt the player of the week every week, but it's going to be tough.
That's going to be hard when you got a guy who single-handedly was the deciding factor in a game like he was the other day. Scoring on a hit, Pasquantino hit from first base like that, just legging him out, man. He's so much fun to watch, that guy.
Yeah, 305, a homer, 6 ribbies, 5 stolen bases, 849 OPS so far. So one of the more fun guys to watch, like you said. And they can do things that you don't see in the box score that affect games,
Right.
those guys like that.
Right.
Anything else right now, Nico, on the American League before we pass it on to Bruce?
We'll pass it on to Bruce, and then we'll kind of go over another American League talking point. So pass it to you, Bruce, and you can give your NL rundown.
Let me jump in real quick, Bruce, and just give the disclaimer I should have given at the beginning. We all know we've got 2 weeks of data. We know that this is a snapshot of a large season, but this is what we do with baseball. We overreact and we take what we know at the time. But we're all aware that, hey, a lot of what we're talking about now could be totally different in 2 weeks and certainly different in 2, 3, 4 months. So I just want to throw that caveat in. And Bruce, trivia question, and if you weren't already going to cover this, who has scored the most runs in the major leagues by a pretty good margin so far?
Who has scored the most runs in the major leagues? You mean as a team?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
as a team. Well, that's the Chicago Cubs who are surprising me a little bit. I didn't buy into them at the beginning of the season. I'm still a little this way, but I'm losing faith in some other teams that I thought were going to be a little more meaningful, and the Cubs are picking up some of that slack. All that being said, I'm gonna go back to what you said a minute ago, Jason. I don't buy into anything until mid to late May, because that balanced schedule, you got teams like I just had them like the Angels that have they're playing a really good team and a really bad team, and if you're beating up on the bad teams, that's fantastic. That's what you're supposed to do. But then if you're getting exposed against the good teams, kind of like the Yankees are right now, then you're starting to see some things that you need to be concerned about if you want to be relevant in August and September. So Cubs fans, I love what they're doing. They're out there playing some really good baseball right now. We'll see what they do as the weeks go on. I'm not a buyer on the Cubs yet, but they're scoring runs. I mean, those 17 runs against the Dodgers certainly didn't hurt.
Yeah, that probably skewed that number. They got a plus 41 run differential right now, but they got 16 yesterday.
So, well, take that out of the mix, and they're still plus 25, right?
Yeah, still not bad. Yeah,
that's still good. That's still a pretty good start to the season. So I'm going to start off talking a little bit about the great performances by teams in the past week, and I have to start off with the San Diego Padres, who are playing some really great baseball right now. In the past week, they had I know who it is, but I'm going to say it anyway. They had a 3-game sweep against the Rockies. Did the Rockies bring their bats? I don't know if the Rockies brought their bats. Nobody knows if the Rockies brought their bats because they didn't do anything with them. So that was quite a statement by the Padres. Again, beating up on the bad teams, but that's what you're supposed to do if you're a team like the Padres, who has aspirations of doing a little bit more than just winning a few games this year. So they were 5-1 over the last week. Still impressive. Now the Cubs are my number 2 team of the week, coming at 4-2. That you got to talk about that 16-0 beating the Angels. Now the caveat to that is it was mostly on their bullpen. So the Dodgers bullpen just wasn't doing the job that night. But still, Ben Brown had a really good pitching performance. We saw some really good hitting from Michael Busch and Carson Kelly over the past week as well. So, like I said, the Cubs are playing some really good baseball. And then the other team that I'd like to talk just for a second about are the Mets. I didn't buy into the Mets at the beginning of the season. I still think the Mets are going to Met, but right now they're playing halfway decent baseball. Kodai Senga, I love this guy. I've always loved Kodai Senga. I saw him pitch his first season in the majors at Citizens Bank Park against the Phillies, and he just looks great. I hope he stays healthy. I hope that he can, yes, he's not going to continue to be a lights out guy all the time. He's very much a location kind of a guy sometimes with what he throws, but still, it's really great to see him out there. It's great to see the Mets doing some things, and I'm going to be the guy who says it without Juan Soto doing a whole lot for them. He's there. His presence is felt, but he's very much a middling guy, offensive performer this year so far. He'll come around. He still wants Soto. He's very consistent. But one thing I'd like to just mention is Francisco Lindor's 1,500th career hit this week. That's pretty neat stuff. I like what Lindor's done with that Mets team. I like how when he steps up and he starts rolling, the Mets start rolling. And right now, that's kind of what's happening over there with the Mets. So those are three teams that nationally I think stood out over the past week. I do think that of all the teams, the Padres are really the ones that are kind of the shiny coin in the drawer in the National League. Nico, you talked a little bit about how there's a lot of muddiness in the American League. National League isn't like that. The rich are getting richer and the poor are getting poorer. The Braves, sorry, they're really not a good team right now. And they're not looking good. They don't even have aspirations of being good. Similarly, in the Central, the Pirates are they're terrible. I'm not going to read you stats. I don't need to read you stats. They're terrible right now. And in spite of what Derek Shelton said in his interview this afternoon after they got beat up by the Reds, his comments were along the lines of, our pitching was pretty good. We just need to hit. Listen, the pitching's not terrible, but you need guys out there throwing BBs so no one can hit them if they have any chance of winning. And that's just not going to happen. Negative 28 run differential there, Jason, for the Pirates. And that's pretty awful when you look at that Cubs 41 at the top of the division, plus 41. You got to ask yourself, how do you catch up to that? The answer is you don't.
They've scored 50 runs, 50, which ties them with the White Sox and actually they're a little bit ahead of the Rockies, but yeah.
Yeah, I won't tell you to look at what the Braves have scored.
I see it.
But then we're going to go back to the Rockies, who again, bottom of the division, and they are just the bottom of the division. Meanwhile, the Padres, Giants, Dodgers, and Diamondbacks are just running away from the Rockies. So you have to look at those numbers and say, well, is this for real or not? In the West, it is. The Rockies are the Rockies. The Central, there's not a lot of separation between the Cubs, Reds, and Brewers and Cardinals right now. They're a little more squished together in record, but as that schedule plays out, I still believe that we're going to see separation. The Cardinals are going to fall off, and I still believe, even though they're playing good baseball right now, the Brewers are going to fall off too a little bit.
What about Bert? Let me jump in here. Maybe we get Nico's opinion on this too. What about the Giants? Nobody's talking about these guys. They're 7-3 in their last 10, game and a half behind those Padres. 8-4 against teams over 500 so far.
They just made the Yankees look pretty bad.
Yeah, 2 out of 3, right? They beat them. Nico, what do you think about this? We'll get you in on some National League real quick. What do you think about those Giants?
Yeah, I tell you, Jung Ho Lee looks very comfortable in Yankee Stadium. He single-handedly, beat them in those two games. But no, I kind of touched up on the Giants after the first week of the season. And so far, they're playing good baseball. I'm not sure if they've surrendered an error yet, but I know that they were the last team that hadn't surrendered an error. The Giants definitely they look pretty good. Like I said, the
7-2 on the road too, by the way. 7-2 on the road so far. That's not bad.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. So they look good, especially in Yankee Stadium.
Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you that I campaigned for Jung Ho Lee to be a Yankee this year. I thought he would have slotted in at second base really nicely. He would have made a really great addition to a team, made it much more athletic. Instead, he's doing it in San Francisco.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Just want to throw that
I
in
do
there
want to
because
say,
they're not getting the love.
yeah, I did want to say, guys, I wanted to say that isn't it interesting? You got the Pirates ownership stealing that attention from the Athletics ownership. For all these years, all that attention on Oakland and leaving Oakland and now in Sacramento. Now, I tell you, the Pirates are making a run for some being having the most disdain for their ownership group. The managers getting booed. The owners getting taunted. It's tough times in Pittsburgh.
Well, the Pirates aren't doing themselves any favors with that either. I mean, the organization, they're really not out there shaking hands and kissing babies very much. Instead, they're shaking babies and smacking hands around with the fans. For an owner who stands there and says, "I'm not selling. I love this team. I'm doing the best I can." I'm not. I don't live in Pittsburgh, and I don't buy it. I'm not looking from afar and buying it. There's no way somebody who's been a Pirates fan for 20 years is sitting there saying, "Oh no, Nutting and his ownership group are doing a great job. They'll get there." There's no way. There's just no way.
Yeah.
They're making the A's ownership look really good, right?
Yeah, they're sort of hiding. They're hiding they're taking the throne from the A's, but yeah. And Ben Sherrington's not a bad GM either. In Pittsburgh, I liked him in Boston, and he had some success. And I kind of wonder, he's got to be shaking his head over there in Pittsburgh. He can't really, can't sign free agents. He's never, his hands are tied, and it's kind of sad to see because
that's the trouble,
he had
Nico.
some success.
His hands are tied. That's his trouble.
Exactly.
He is a good GM, and when he's given a little bit of leash, he makes some good moves. He does the best he can with what he has. He's just you can't spin gold if you're given plastic.
Yeah, and by the way, Bruce, you mentioned their pitching, and they're saying the pitching's okay. I just checked, and again, small sample sizes. They're 21st in team ERA and 17th in WHIP. I may have reversed that, but either way, they're middle of the pack.
Yeah, no, it's not good. It's not good.
It's
not good. But it's not. It should be better. The guys they have there are better than that. But I can't imagine that it's not, that all of the nonsense off the field isn't impacting the guys who actually have talent on the field. You went out and signed Tommy Pham. What's he hitting? $121, something like that out there in left field. Andrew McCutcheon's out there making actually some really nice defensive plays. He's acting like he's a little younger than he was. But O'Neill Cruz listen, guys, he's not playing a good center field. He's not showing that he's the guy to play center field. And I thought it was a good move. I thought he'd go out there, he'd be athletic, he'd make some great plays, but instead he's making Jose Altuve look like that was a masterful move to move him to left field. Because Jose's out there at least being competent about the position most of the time.
Yeah. No, absolutely. By the way, the Padres 10-0 at home. They haven't lost a home game yet.
Yes, they're the last remaining team that has not lost at home.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah.
You sort of wonder how many games is Colorado going to lose this season. I mean, it could get ugly out there.
Colorado.
I think it's already pretty ugly. It's going to get. I think it's going to get worse. Negative 44 run differential. They've scored 40 runs. Yeah.
So let's juxtapose Colorado's inauspicious start to the Chicago White Sox, who are 4-11, still just not winning games. They just can't win games, but only a -3 run differential.
Yeah.
So when I look at that, I think to myself, well, they're not good. Don't misunderstand me. They're still going to finish in last. But do they have a shot at maybe not losing 100 games? Maybe. I don't know.
Maybe.
But the Rockies don't.
The Rockies absolutely don't. No, they're gonna
not in that division.
They could conceivably make a run at the White Sox record last year. We'll see.
Yeah. Rockies -44, Pirates -28. Who's gonna lose more games?
And look, how awful does that have to be for a fan base to just as much as we love baseball, it gets hard to watch when your team's that bad. It's I've been there, and I still love my team, and I still follow them, but it's hard. And that's a great area out there. It's a great ballpark from what I hear. And It's just a shame. It's a shame that any of these teams, the Pirates, the White Sox, the Rockies, their ownership can't get things together. Because year after year, these teams generally are at the bottom, right? So, what else you got, Bruce? Anything else on the National League right now, or you want to
Well, I'd like
flip
to
it?
nationally just talk about a couple of performances this week that I thought were particularly standout performances. And strangely enough, if I know Nico was talking about like player of the week type stuff. If I had to pick a player of the week, it would be Brenton Doyle, the Colorado Rockies.
How
He
about
hit 529. I know, but he had 529 this week. He hit 3 home runs. His OPS was 1732 for the week. I mean, I don't want to overstate it and say, hey, Rockies fans, you got someone to cheer for. It's only a week, but I don't care who you are. That's a great week. It overshines Jackson Churrio's hitting 385 with 4 home runs just a little, although Churio certainly is a nice honorable mention. But I also don't want to leave out Michael King's complete game shutout, which was quite impressive. I get it against the Rockies. Nonetheless, how many complete game shutouts are we seeing these days? Not that many.
First time
Nope.
Kings ever pitched into the ninth inning in his career.
Yeah. Well, yeah. And again, it's against the Rockies, but still.
You'll take it.
Oh, absolutely. And if people looked at Michael King when he got traded to the Padres and said, well, he was never going to start in New York anyway. It doesn't look so great right now, does it? With the way the Yankees, when you're looking at the rotation, the Yankees are trotting out there. Even if Cole and he'll come back and our money, which we know we're not going to see Cole this year at all. You could really use a Michael King right now.
Yeah, and by the way, as we recorded this, I don't know if you guys saw it right before I jumped on. Justin Steele was announced to be out for the year, so that's a big blow for the Cubbies.
Yeah.
Who
I
had a
think
lovely 7 inning performance against the Rangers this week.
yeah, so that's
Yes, he
a tough
did.
blow for them. All right.
Yeah, that is a tough blow. That hurts the
Yeah. So
Cubs quite a bit, actually.
I just want to throw in there too, guys. So as you guys know, I made a trip to the Rays temporary home this past week, and I will say this: first of all, for what it is, it's a nice ballpark. It's not bad. Second of all, there was something kind of charming about watching Major League Baseball on it's essentially a minor league baseball field. And despite the fact the team I was pulling for played awful, it was still a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun, and we were close up. We had good seats that weren't $250 a pop, and there was just something charming about it. It was like going to just a baseball game, and it's great to go to a major league game, and I love all the frills and the big ballparks, but there was something kind of cool about it. So I don't know where the Rays are going to end up. I can tell you that that place was 80% Braves fan. They were playing Atlanta. It was 80% Atlanta fans. I talked to some really cool Rays fans that were nearby though, but I don't know where they're headed. But it's a great opportunity if you live in that area, especially get out and go watch them. I mean, it's a great opportunity to see some Major League Baseball without having to pay MLB prices, at least for the tickets. You're still paying MLB prices for concessions, trust me. But the tickets were the tickets were reasonable. Ballpark was nice. Weather was great. I just encourage people in that area take advantage of it because you don't know where the Rays are going to end up in a couple of years. Um, so we're going to circle back here, guys. Nico, you want to come back and just kind of give us a thought here as we kind of wrap up this episode?
Well, first of all, to piggyback with the Pirates, there's no better time to extend Paul Skeens than right now, right? I mean, the fan base is pissed off. They're frustrated. They're losing ball games. Give them what they want right now. Extend Paul Skeens. Keep him in a Pirates uniform for the next,
Does
I don't know,
Paul
5 to
Skeens
7
want to
years.
stay in the Pirates uniform?
See,
That's my question.
that's the thing is
Does he want
Why
to
not?
win?
fan wise, you want to win some fans back, you better go out there and throw something at him to get him to resign. If I'm Paul Skeens, I'm saying, listen, guys, let me pitch this season and see how I feel later. I don't know that I'm going to jump into a long-term deal with Pittsburgh right now. I have options. That I think he's a hard sell to sign to him right now.
Yeah. Well, at this point, seems like it's inevitable he'll be a Yankee or a Dodger or a Red Sox. So kind of like Garrett Cole. Garrett Cole was a Pirate, and then he was an Astro, and now he's a Yankee. So let's hope they keep him for for the sake of the fan base. But yeah, so to piggyback on the American League, I want to shed a little light on the Minnesota Twins. They won today. They did pick up a ball game against the Tigers, so they're sitting at 5-11, but they've got no identity at the moment. And I'm looking at this team and sort of how we analyzed them before the season started. We said, is this Minnesota Twins team going to resemble the team from April to say August of last year, or is this going to resemble the team of September, which totally fell apart? And thus far in this season, like we spoke about, what's their identity? Is it their starting pitching? Because they've got some good starting pitching. Is it their lineup? Well, they haven't been performing so far, in this in April. So yeah, I'm looking at the Minnesota Twins and I'm just asking myself, if they keep losing, how hot is that seat going to get for Rocco Baldelli? I personally thought that at the end of the last season they were going to part ways because they just fell apart, and now they're kind of stumbling into the season and they look just like the same ball club. So I'm looking at the Twins and I'm asking myself, how much, if they go, like kind of like what the Astros did last year, start 6-7-20. Is Rocco Baldelli going to be able to survive a start like that? But they're not a team that usually makes big changes. But at the moment, they look like a team that they really got to start winning ball games. Similar to the Braves, but they really got to start putting wins together. Otherwise, that team could spiral a little bit, and I could see Baldelli, losing his job.
Royce Lewis is a key for that team, and he can't stay on the field. And when he's not there, and I'll throw a number out here in just a minute when we get back to the National League. But yeah, as soon as he was hurt in spring training, I started shaking my head. The Twins are in trouble. Go ahead, Bruce.
Yeah, and Correa is on the field, but he might as well not be.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Yeah.
Buxton as well. Byron Buxton's on the field.
Yeah. Those are your three guys in Minnesota, right? Buxton, Correa, and Lewis. Lewis is out. Correa might as well be out. And what's Buxton doing to help? They can't stay healthy and they can't produce.
We're going to try to give a Trevor Plouffe shout out every episode. Our guy Trevor Plouffe said this was the most talented roster in the American League during their
American League Central
season.
What
and
rosters is Trevor Plouffe looking at?
Yeah, but they're not playing like it, obviously. So we still love Trevor, though. We're going to keep shouting him out.
Yeah, we love you, Trevor. We're cheering for your Twins too.
Yeah. So let me just throw this in there because somebody sent this to me today. And Bruce, I don't know what you were going to hit on, but real quick, we're talking about spark plugs and Royce Lewis. And we're talking about the Braves. And 327 games, last 500 games for the Braves, 327 games with Ronald Acuna Jr., 216 and 111. That's a 661 win percentage, 5.43 runs per game. In 173 games without him, 81 and 92. That's a 468 and 4.08 runs per game. That does tell you what a difference one player imagine the Royals without Bobby Witt Jr. right now.
Mm-hmm.
Right? That's a huge deal. So look, Acuna is supposed to be back. The Braves may already be buried by then, but he obviously makes a huge difference when he's in that lineup. And I feel like that was the same effect going back to Nico and the Twins that Royce Lewis has on that Twins team.
I think, he still hasn't proven a whole lot. He's a talented kid, but like Bruce mentioned in the preseason, if he could play a full season, if he can get 155 to 160 games of Royce Lewis, he could really, load up that stat sheet, but it hasn't happened yet. So
yeah, I'm starting to think that he just can't. He can't do it. But hopefully he gets.
He's a young kid.
Yeah.
I don't know how you guys feel about this, but I would never think to put Kyle Schwarber in the leadoff spot, right? I just wouldn't think to do it. But since 2022, the Phillies have a .610 winning percentage when Schwarber leads off. You can't argue with that.
You can't.
Absolutely. Can you quantify why? Not really. It's hard to. He gets on base. I guess that's what you could throw out there. But similarly, you throw a guy like Acuna in the lineup, throw a guy like Schwarber in that spot. These are the spark plugs that make the engines run. And sometimes you really can't just can't explain it. But you do know it works. And it could be just an attitude in the clubhouse when they know Acuna's in the lineup. Could be that easy that they know the guy's there. Great, fantastic. Today we're going to win. Baseball players are like that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm just going to throw this out there, guys. That's why it's very difficult not to be romantic about baseball. I'm just going to throw that in there. So I got to say it.
That's right.
Anytime we can throw that in there, Jason.
Yes, romantic about baseball and Trevor Plouffe. We're going to get those worked out. Bruce, did you have anything else you wanted to wrap with?
I wanted to wrap just to highlight a series I'm excited about coming up this week in the National League. The Giants and the Phillies. These are two teams that are playing some pretty good baseball. We saw Wheeler get exposed a little bit today. He gave up 4 runs. That's not earth-shattering by any stretch of the imagination. For Wheeler, it's something that you don't expect to see very often. So I expect this Giants-Phillies series coming up starting tomorrow to be a lot of fun to watch. I think we're going to see both teams come out and play some really exciting baseball for us. And maybe we'll learn if the Giants are for real.
Yeah, Wheeler didn't pitch great in his last start either against the Braves. And that's not good the way the Braves are playing offense. And then on the flip side of that, by the way, Chris Sale had a third straight subpar start for the Braves. So something else to watch there. But I noticed that Giants Philly series as well. I'm looking forward to that also. That should be a good one. All right, guys. Any final thoughts from either of you? I'll give you some time here, or we'll wrap it up.
Yeah, so American League ALDS American League Divisional Series rematch tomorrow night, starting in New York. Royals and Yankees. Excited for that one. I'm excited to see Bobby Witt in New York playing, in the spectacle of the city there. So that's a big series. So looking forward to that, and I think it's going to be it'll be a fair measuring stick for sort of where the Royals are at. Can they capitalize tomorrow night? Carlo Carrasco on the hill for the Yankees. So looking out for that one there in the American League.
Yeah, the Royals will take that series, Nico. But the way the Yankees are playing right now,
yeah,
and the
Yankees
Royals
are only 5-4 at home. They're not exactly defending home turf.
Yeah, they're not.
Yeah.
Great stuff. Great analysis. Both leagues. I think this is going to be a great format with you guys focusing on a league each. Really good stuff. And we're looking forward to another week. And we will be back with you next week to recap the current MLB week ahead of us. So thank you, Bruce. Thank you, Nico. We'll wrap it up. And goodbye, everybody. We'll see you at the ballpark.